Look, these storms are completely unpredictable. As much science as we have and as much, forecasting ability as our best meteorologists have at the National Hurricane Center and at some of our, TV and radio stations, we still don't know exactly where they're going to go. And that's why it takes a steady hand, a steady leader to be running the ship of state when one of these things is threatening the Texas coast.
Yeah, and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, he's been the guy on this one, stepping in while the governor's overseas.
Yeah, he has been, and it's interesting to see the discussion break out about that too. Look, Governor Abbott had planned a trip to Asia. I think he's in South Korea now, or maybe has moved on to Tokyo, but was in Taiwan. I think it was the first leg of the trip, and he was on the timing of it was he was basically getting ready to leave as we saw this storm moving into the Gulf, this tropical system moving into the Gulf. There was a time, Chad, and I'm trying to remember any time previously in covering these hurricanes and covering governors where a governor didn't stay in Texas if there was a storm like this threatening the coast. I was looking back at my notes, in 2008, Governor Perry skipped going to the RNC, which of course this year is coming up in about a week, next week. And the reason the governor didn't go was because there was a storm. Hurricane Gustav was moving into the Gulf. It ended up not really having much impact in Texas. It turned to the east and went, up into Louisiana and some other places. But Governor Perry, of course, he was supposed to host people at the RNC, host the Texas delegation. And instead, he left that to Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst, and Governor Perry stayed here. And, some people say, Scott, why are you even pointing that out? It's not so much of a criticism of Abbott. It's just a difference. I haven't seen that before where a governor would go ahead and, look, if Governor Perry, and honestly, Chad, I think Perry really relished the chance to be the guy in charge when these natural disasters would happen. He was kind of like, he would kind of act like a county judge on steroids. Like he would go down to Houston, he'd got the fishing shirt and the ball cap, and he's going to, lead us through the storm. I don't know that Abbott really cares that much or in the same way. And I can imagine that if Perry was still there and he was on his way to Asia already, if the trip had been planned, he was halfway there, Perry might tell them to turn the plane around if there was a hurricane coming in. Hard to say, hard to second guess. I do think it speaks to his ambition. Governor Abbott has higher ambitions. I've never, as you know, I haven't been one of those saying that, he's going to run for president or, he's trying to get picked by Trump necessarily, although there have been some things that we've talked about here on the show to make both you and I think that maybe he, might be looking at some of that. But let's not kid ourselves. He's on this trip to Asia, in part to be there in Taiwan with the leadership there, basically giving the middle finger to China. Right. This is right before former President Trump is going to pick his VP. We still don't know who he's going to choose. But here's Abbott projecting on a national and international stage, while Lieutenant Governor Patrick is here acting as governor and leading the state through this. I think that he did a great job. I think he's somebody, and this analysis isn't some genius thing. He's just better at it. He's just good at it. Right? That Patrick's good at being on TV, good at being on radio. Governor Abbott, of course, was a judge, spending decades in a courtroom, while Patrick was a talk show host and a sportscaster, spending decades on TV and radio. He's good at conveying the information in a way that projects confidence and gives people real time information that can potentially save lives, which is what the person in charge is supposed to be doing. At that time, he had a press conference just a little while ago, about an hour ago. I was there at the Operations Center, the State Operations Center, the Division of Emergency Management, and I was asking the Lieutenant Governor about this, Chad, the fact that this is his first time acting as governor during a hurricane. I said, is that right, Governor? I'm trying to remember if you ever had to lead the state through a hurricane. And he kind of said, well, Scott, I think you're right that he admitted that that's true. I said, listen, here's the reason I'm bringing it up is because when you are the guy who's in charge, and look, people might say, Chad, what is it that Abbott can't do while he's in Asia, while this hurricane is unfolding in the Houston area? Chad, he can't do anything while he's in Asia. By law, Patrick is the guy who has to do the stuff, right? So I'm asking Patrick about that, and I said, tell me about what those calls are like. When you're he's been in on some of these meetings before, as a senator or as lieutenant governor, but during this crisis, he's the guy getting the call at 3 a.m, 4 a.m. I asked him, I said, doesn't the hair on the back of your neck stand up when you hear some of these things from the Division of Emergency Management, and they're telling you about certain conditions that are about to unfold. They're forecasting certain things where people are going to die, and that the state can bring great resources to bear, but there are some lives that aren't going to be able to be saved. And and Governor Patrick, to his credit, he gave all the credit to the folks there who are working in the background nonstop, 24/7, to try to get the state through such a crisis. He said that he told me, Chad, that he's gone to each one of those people who works in that emergency operations center and thanked them personally for their 24/7 work. And so I do think that you might be seeing with both these guys some glimpse, some window into their future ambitions. Is that here would be Governor Patrick, or here would be maybe VP Abbott. I'm not predicting that those things are going to happen, but this weekend you got kind of a preview of what that might look like.
Yeah, very interesting. Scott, what can people find over at quorumreport.com?
We've got it all covered for you, of course, at quorumreport.com. Click free sign up, and we'll get you going.
Very good. Scott, as always, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Chad. Talk soon.